Hello. So a little while ago, I reviewed this Double Zero by Cyril Zangs, a French cider maker. It's an eau de vie of cider, and you can basically think of it as an unaged Calvados. I really enjoyed it, and I kind of kept the idea in my brain of grabbing spirits by cider producers. And I happened to luck into this, which is really only available in Europe. This is a Domfrontais Calvados. This one is actually aged by another cider maker, Jérôme Forget. If you're in the US, you can buy some of his stuff. And as you would think from someone making Domfrontais, a lot of it is very pear based. He's got a sparkling pear, which is really, really mind-blowingly good. Now, but he distills his own calva on the side. He only makes about 1 barrel a year. This is his first release commercially, and is a 1996. And this is the only 1996 that there will ever be, apparently. And the remarkable thing about this, aside from the age, I think this is bottled, from the write-up I could find, this seems to have been bottled in 2020, so figure 23, 24 years old. The remarkable thing about this is at no point in the process, during aging or during the bottling, was any water added. So this is at a very, very strong 56.2% alcohol by volume. I have never, ever seen a Domfrontais bottled at that high strength. Not even the Paccaries I tried a little while ago were that darn strong. And they were about as close to an artisanal, crafty presentation as you can get otherwise. So this little guy is 80% pear in the, I don't know what you call it, the mash. 80% pear, 20% apple. And here we go, on the nose. So it certainly doesn't have the sort of long fermented funky aggressiveness you get on the Cyril Zangs, but what it does smell like is the most beautiful, gorgeous pear cobbler ever made. I mean, so it's pear, a little bit of apple in there too, obviously. Like toasted brown sugar, figs, black pepper. Actually, the more you notice this, the more the black pepper becomes obvious. Darjeeling tea. There's a ton of like old wooden furniture in this. Some of it is old. Well, some of it is old, but some of it was just like freshly made. It still has that kind of fresh wood smell. A little bit of a citrus thing, like a key lime thing. Touch of something metallic, like a rusty note in there. I mean, it's interesting because this isn't, despite the age, it isn't getting, any fun tertiary notes yet. I'm not getting, sorry, any like mushroominess or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, most of the notes I'm getting seem to come in a pretty straight way from the distillate or the oak, but it kind of works. I mean, it definitely works. But it also feels like on the nose, like something that could have spent another 10 years in the barrel, no problem. On the palate, oh yeah, it's huge and it's spicy and it's just has a delicious, yummy factor. Lots of pear, lots of black pepper, lots of black tea. There's like a curry note, like a Masman curry or something going on. Pear cobbler again, like just a. This is not dosed in any way. Like this is very low intervention production, aging, something like that. There's no actual sugar in here, but it feels very sweet and dessert-like, but at the same time, very real. There's that metallic thing again, like a like a hot metal note. So like, you know, the T1000 in metal form has sort of walked out with a delicious pear cobbler for you. That's kind of what this smells like. Espresso, that kind of furniture note, the mostly old furniture this time. It's more intense on the palate than it is on the nose, actually. And it's just got this long, intense, really, really gorgeous finish. I'm going to pour a bit more of this. Yeah, and again, it's based on the stats of this, you would be expecting to get more sort of weird tertiary notes, but it really isn't there. This is really kind of just about the distillate and the wood. It's just, but it's very, very kind of direct and very kind of poised in the way it's kind of doing what it's doing. Yeah. It's 23, 24 years young, if that makes sense. So I'm going to add some water to this and we'll come back to it. This will take quite a bit of water. 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 squirts. Ooh. Okay, so you watch, you know, spirits reviews and stuff, and people add water, and they kind of tend to go right back into it right away. And sometimes that works. You know, sometimes things do actually start to happen the second you add water, particularly bad things. But usually it takes a while. Particularly the good things tend to take a while. So I'm going to give this a little bit of time. I'm going to set a timer for myself. But I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to skip ahead. We're just going to power through on a 5-minute timer. And I'm going to rant. What am I going to rant about? Well, I could rant about bottling strengths for Calva. That would be very much on topic. But you know, instead, I'm going to rant about Rings of Power. We're going to rant about Rings of Power. Yeah, the Lord of the Rings prequel set in the Second Age of Middle Earth. Let's go. Okay, 5 minutes. Off we go. So, I think Rings of Power looks great. I really like the casting. I really like the acting. There are lots of problems with the writing, and particularly with the way the entire first season was structured. They basically built it as a mystery box, which is this kind of structure that it goes back at least to Lost, where you're kind of keeping audience interest by way of unanswered questions, mysteries. They're going to debate on the internet. Rather than by traditional dramatic stuff like, you know, characters making choices, like, you know, how the Lord of the Rings happen to keep your interest. So the big question that sort of they built the entire first season around was, who is Sauron? Who is the future Dark Lord who's going to make the rings and cause all the trouble? Is it that guy? Maybe it's that guy. Oh no, it's probably that guy. And you know, basically that's the thread along which the series is mostly built. And it just takes so much air out of what could have been interesting. So I've been thinking a lot about one particular scene where the problem becomes evident. There's the first time we see Sauron. Oh, by the way, spoilers. You can skip ahead to whenever I pick up this glass again, if you're not interested. You've already been spoiled, right? The first time we actually technically see Sauron is when he's in the Sundering Seas, fishing out Galadriel, because she was supposed to go to Valinor, but then hopped off the boat at the last minute. So that's like the makings of a really interesting scene, right? You have, you know, Sauron, the former lieutenant of Morgoth, on the boat with the guy who, at least in this version of the story, has been trying to kill him for centuries. And he knows who she is, but she doesn't know who he is because he's disguised as a pretty boy. That's really dramatically interesting. And it raises lots of questions. Why is Sauron there? right? Like, did he know that Galadriel was going to be there? Like, was it makes sense he'd be interested in her, right? If she's been trying to kill him for centuries. Like, did he know she was going to hop off the boat? How did he know that? Was his whole plan to trick her into thinking that he was king of the Southlands so that then he could get fake injured or maybe real injured, and then she would take him to Aragon so he could hang out with Celebrimbor and get his rings made? Okay, yeah. Did he have a backup in case she like figured out that who he was, and maybe she was doing some research in Numenor or something? That would have been a fun scene, actually. Like if you had a scene where Galadriel was trying to do research on the history of Southland's royalty, and Sauron is like trying to stay one step ahead of her. You could have done that, except we weren't allowed to know who he was, so we don't get that kind of fun cat and mouse stuff. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he wasn't after Galadriel. He would just happen to be in the sea for a different reason. Why would that be? And they just happened to meet up. Like, was he actually trying to head west himself? Like he was supposed to be, right? At the conclusion of the last war, after Morgoth got kicked into the void, he was supposed to head west for judgment, and then he just like pieced out. So did he decide maybe, yeah, he was going to do that, and then like he just like his boat got attacked and he just ended up with Galadriel? Like that's interesting too. There's lots and lots of interesting ways you can do that, and like the motivations of Sauron the character are really important because he is what pushes along all the events of the Second Age of Middle Earth. It's really important to nail down what his character is trying to do. And that scene in particular, like it could be, it would have so much more weight were we to know, who Sauron is, why he is there, what he is trying to do, what his project is. But no, we can't because we're not allowed to find out until the end of the season. And you could argue, the reveal scene in the last episode is pretty great. And I agree. I like that conversation a lot. But it's not a reveal to us. It's a reveal to Galadriel. Like, everyone with the brain knew exactly what was going on the second we saw Pretty Boy hanging around in Celebrimbor's workshop. We all knew. Like, everyone got it at that point. So the only one who was getting a reveal in that scene was Galadriel. And that reveal would have probably been even better if we'd already known what was going on way beforehand, and there'd been time to... My time's up. There'd been time a chance to build up to that, like tease it. Anyhow, I can reserve hope for the second season, but yeah, the first was rough. All right, so we're gonna get back to this. The reason I gave it that much time is because when you add water to this, first off, it tends to get very prickly. So let's see what happens. On the nose. Okay, so the spiciness comes out even more on the nose. The curry note I was getting on the palate before, that curry note is really kind of coming into play on the nose now. And there's a minerality to this that I sometimes do get in like really high-end ciders, like good artisanal French ciders, Basque ciders. Have this kind of, fruit, like this rocky, slightly salty thing running through them. And it's coming through on the nose now. It's nice. It's starting, it develops... Not a ton, but a little bit, and in all the right sorts of ways when you do add water to this, at least on the nose. On the palate, oh, even if you give it a proper amount of time, this is still very, very prickly on the palate after you add water. It's just, the spiciness just turns up like 3 notches in a good way. But I do recommend just giving this some resting time if you're going to water it. And it's also got that same line of minerality I was talking about in the nose. It's definitely there on the palate now, and it wasn't there before. Yeah, as much as I like this neat, I do like it more with water. It just there's an extra layer of that mineral complexity, and the finish is just so. The fit was good before, and it's just so grippy and like rocky and kind of bittersweet and slightly floral now. This is really good. This is really good stuff. You're probably going to have a really hard time getting this right now. I think there are a few more bottles available if you're in Europe. Again, I got lucky. But do keep an eye on this. Jérôme Forget, there's going to be more stuff like this. And in particular, like I personally have gotten to the point where if I see spirit made by cidermaker, like I'm an insta-buy. Like I am in. Like they seem to be really good across the two examples I've had so far. So yeah, that's where I am. This is. I mean, it's a new style for me. This intense. I've had aged pear brandies. I've never had one that's this old, or this one this strong, or this one that kind of weaves it all together so well. I mean, so it's a new thing for me, but it's pretty darn perfect. I'm gonna give this a 90. This is a 90 pointer. Well done, Mr. Forget. Thanks for watching. Thanks for humoring my Rings of Power rant. And cheers.